Let's move over to the spring transfer window. The portal window to enter the portal has now closed. Here we're recording in the first week of May, so I believe it closed maybe a week ago, the very end of April. There are still guys that are in the portal, are able to commit elsewhere, but you had to be in the portal before that April 30th date, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So the current class rankings, according to 247, this is transfer class rankings. Colorado, USC, LSU, Auburn, Florida State, Oklahoma, Louisville, Arkansas, UCLA, Ole Miss are the top 10. Let's start with Colorado. We talked about them last week. You made a special video as well. 38 commits coming in, 53 going out. Now, you talked about this, and there's been a lot of buzz. We recorded a couple of different videos on it. Just to kind of reset for all the headlines, for all the news, all the media talking heads going back and forth, what do we think is either the net pro or the net con that comes out of Colorado because of all these transfers?
Look, at the end of the day, I want to take a step back, right? Our video last week got a bunch of comments and a lot of Colorado fans saying that we were dummies and we were morons and clowns and stuff like that for saying that, Colorado was going to be terrible. I can't believe you didn't see that clip where Deion said that everyone should hit the portal. Guys, we saw the clip, okay? If you follow college football to any degree, you know that Deion said he was going to use the portal, and I think we all expected it, right? He's a coach with a lot of cachet. He can kind of walk in and change a culture overnight. I think we expected a lot of those players who are part of that 1-11 team to leave.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Deion Sanders is unconventional to say the very least, right? This is not something we've seen before in college football. We haven't seen a coach come into a new place and completely turn the roster over. 38 coming in, 53 going out is not insignificant. That's not okay, oh well, who cares, right? 53 guys leaving your roster, including a couple of guys who are a really big deal. Montana Lamonius Craig, for example, your leading receiver from last year, he caught 2 touchdowns on 154 yards in your spring game, and the next day decides to leave. That's not a small deal, right? That's not someone Deion told to hit the portal. I can't imagine him doing that, at least. That doesn't make any sense if you're asking me. Yes, there's going to be more talent on Colorado's roster. Absolutely. We know that. We know their roster is going to get better. They're the number 1 ranked transfer class right now. The problem that I still see, and the problem I'm still going to posit for this, is nobody's done something like this before, and I can't imagine this will be great for a locker room. I was talking about this with a couple people this week about how, when you turn a locker room over, right, you haven't seen that guy before. He's wearing your same colors. He's wearing your jersey. Y'all are all talking about the same thing. Y'all are all in the same huddles, whatever. But that guy wasn't there last year for all those practices, for all those camps, for all those drills. That guy wasn't there across from you last year. That's not the same team at that point. You can bring in new players to your team, but when you lose that many guys, this isn't the same team. Now, again, come back at me and say they went 1-11. We don't want that team anymore. That makes a lot of sense. I totally get that.
Yes, it does.
But if we're talking like somehow he's going to bring in all these guys and it's going to be super cohesive and everyone's going to be together and have the same vision and everything else, that doesn't make sense. That just is completely unpatently false. And I don't think that Deion has done a very good job, at least visually, presenting himself well in all of this. I don't think he's presented himself very well. I think that there's a lot of negative press going on around this, and you might be a Colorado defender and say that, sure, this is what we all expected. We're happy with this. The fan base is totally fine with it. That's fine. I totally get it. I just don't think that this is a good look nationally, and I think it's going to be really hard to pull guys when you're, looking at, maybe a mixed reputation, right? Right now, what Deion has is reputation. He has a reputation for being that guy who can come in and change a program. He did it at Jackson State. Great, cool. That's his reputation. He hasn't done it at a Power 5 level. We'll have to wait and see what that looks like. But I just think there's so much overreaction going on around Colorado. This is a team who won 1 game last year. If they win a couple of games this year, they've improved, and I think that's a credit to Deion. I think it's a credit to bringing in better people. If they win 4 games this year, I think that's an okay year 1 if you're Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
I can't believe the overhyping that I've seen. I saw a post today. I tweeted it out. Someone put out their top 3 quarterbacks in the Pac-12.
Huh.
And I don't know if it was in this particular order, but the order of the pictures was Shadur Sanders at number 1, and then it was Caleb Williams and Michael Penix Jr. And I
Yeah.
said, I don't even think he cracks my top 5. I would have put, guys like, obviously Caleb Williams is your number 1. He's a returning Heisman. You got to talk about guys like Bo Nix. You got to talk about guys like obviously Michael Penix Jr. But
Cam
then guys like
Rising.
Cam Rising, Jaden DeLara as well. He's great. DJ possibly. I've seen what DJ can do in college. He's had good games.
Yeah.
He's competed at the Power 5 level, and I don't understand the overreaction hype about Colorado. I think they're going to be better, and if Deion could pull this off, we could be looking up in a couple years, and Colorado's a perennial, 8-4, 9-3 type of team that threatens for the pack. That's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
We're just not there yet, and I don't
No.
think it's fair to say that it's a guaranteed crash course that we're going to get there.
I'll agree with all of that. I don't really need to add a ton more. It's not that Colorado can't be a success for all those people that are saying that's what we're saying. That's not. We're saying hold the horses, right? Anything more than 4-8 would be a tremendous success in year 1. And yeah, for folks that just think that, Colorado is going to be fine, that, hey, listen, I don't blame you. You have hope for the first time since the 90s, right? The first time since
Right.
2004 when Vince Young rolled in and demolished you in that Big 12 championship game. I get it. It's been a wilderness for the last 20 years. But to then all of a sudden, drink all the Kool-Aid and assume that Deion is this, chosen one, when he hasn't coached a single game and hasn't done anything at the Power 5 level, it's a little naive, right? And
Right.
it goes completely against the history of sports and team building. So, hey, if it works out for them, great. I think it's a little bit of a weird precedent to set that, yeah, basically you get one high profile figure who rallies the troops for a couple of years. He wins and then maybe he moves on, right? So I'm not saying I'm going to root against Colorado. I'm just hoping it's not a roaring success in year 1, because the transfer portal is already not what people hoped it would be for the health of the sport.
Right.
And if we get to, if people get to take the LeBron strategy where they just assemble super teams every year and kick off, kids that aren't that super team to make room for them, that I think would be bad for the long-term health of the sport. So
Right. Well,
not rooting against them, but also hoping the strategy doesn't pan out in year 1.
Right. And the other thing about it too is we're talking about Deion as this elite coach when he might very well be that level of coach. We don't know. We haven't seen it at the Power 5 level. But I'd like to remind people that there was a national championship winning head coach at Florida State that went to A&M and didn't make a perfect run in year 1, still struggling to get over the hump. You had a guy who's a perennial, playoff contending coach at Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley. He went to USC, and they certainly weren't perfect in year 1 at USC. They stumbled down the stretch, couldn't even win their bowl game. And then you have a guy like Brian Kelly, who was plenty established at Notre Dame, all-time winning coach at Notre Dame. He goes to LSU. They had a great first year, but stumbled against A&M, couldn't win the conference championship, fell short of the playoff. Obviously, these guys had plenty of success at their first stops, but these were much more established coaches at bigger name programs who also went to bigger name programs than Colorado and still struggled to some extent. I just think if you're a Colorado fan, you got to pump the brakes a little bit here and say, realistically, if we're anything close to a bowl contending team, that's a massive win. But let's not pretend like this thing is so bulletproof that, Shadur Sanders is an actual Heisman contender, towards the end of the year. I just think that's a little bit ridiculous. And, I think we all want to see a competitive Colorado. We just don't want to get our hopes up too much and then assume that, yeah, this team is the team of destiny and Deion's the greatest coach that's ever lived.
Gracious. Yep. How about that?